wanted to share this with you guys because, I was talking about what's going on with Uber drivers, I think in the last week, and that they're here in Orlando, they are going on strike. Uber and Lyft drivers, really. And so, because of that, they are just sick and tired of being sick and tired, basically. They are constantly being shortchanged as far as what they are getting in compensation because um, they are independent contractors. They do not get a actual living wage by law. They do not get benefits, actual benefits. And then on top of all that, um, these companies basically scalp them for a lot of money that really should be going to them. And so that's something that I think that a lot of people really need to take into consideration when it comes to a lot of these people who work for ride shares. And a lot of these ride shares are also now in the food delivery business. And the food delivery business had a major boom in 2020 due to the pandemic. See, everybody was staying home. So people, if they wanted to eat, get something out to eat, then they just ordered through these apps and then they have the food delivered to them. So it's not the old days when the only places that delivered food, especially here in Florida, was, Papa John's, Domino's, and Pizza Hut. And though those days are over, because if you want Greek food, you can order Greek food. If you want Spanish food, you can order Latino food. You can order Latino food. If you want burgers, you can order burgers. You can basically do all that. And there's different companies that you can do that with. You can do that through Uber Eats, Postmates, DoorDash, Grubhub, and the like. And so this gentleman, an Uber Eats driver, is in tears. And I am going to be sharing this really quick because I think that people don't realize the human aspect of what a lot of people who are in these gig work go through. And so let's go into that right now. So share screen and all right. And this caption says, y'all, I wish who order Uber Eats or DoorDash understood what it's like to be a delivery driver. Let's listen to him.
I wish people knew what it was like to deliver for Uber Eats, Postmates, DoorDash, all these companies. I just spent an hour driving around for $1.19 tip. I mean, would it hurt y'all to tip us, throw us $5? I got $1.19 tip and $2 from the app. What's that? That's not even enough to cover gas. How am I supposed to survive like that? Homeless. I'm there. This that I'm sitting in, it's gone. 4 months behind. There's no way I could pay for that. Everything fell apart on me. I haven't been able to sustain myself, provide for myself. And these are essential services. I just wish people knew what it was like. I wish they understood what it was like to drive for these services.
Does your heart hurt? Because mine does. My heart hurts. He said he drove for an hour and got $1.19 in tips. My biggest issue is people will go, well, they charge us all these different prices. And so therefore, if we can't tip, then we can't tip. We can only do what we can do. Well, I do see your point as far as these companies charging all these different fees, which is true. You're using these people and you're pushing that exploitation as well. We're both getting exploited. But at the same time, here's my thing. if you have transportation, why don't you get in your car and go and get it? Now, there are some of us that don't have transportation, which is fine, right? Okay. Like for people like myself, I don't have transportation. But you should factor a tip in, because I feel like if you go to a restaurant, you factor the tip in and your food costs. This is no different than going to a restaurant. No different. So if you're going to go, well, I just didn't have enough money for tip, then I guess you better take your ass to the grocery store and cook some food at home. Or if you're going to get something that you don't really need to cook, then when you go to the grocery store, get your food from the, that's microwavable, and zap it and eat that. But you're not going to sit here and use labor and then not pay for labor. See what I mean? Now, there's two different people at fault. There is the person who ordered, who does not want a tip, and then there's the companies that make it so that these drivers have to rely on tips in order to survive. So one of the things that really got me mad was some of the comments. So Human Nature says, homeless Uber driver cries after getting a small $1 tip. Asks, how am I supposed to survive? So this is actually a good one. Arcane Saint says, I always tip extra on DoorDash. They are literally driving you food. If they shop extra for that as well, you tip servers, you tip drivers. If you can't do that, do not order off the apps or go out. And that's basically, my thing. I'm just looking because I saw some of the comments yesterday, but I haven't seen some of the latest comments. It says, if food service drivers were as mad as the people paying them for not paying them enough as they were mad at people just trying to be as well, it's frustrating. We don't understand, but we're not the ones you should be mad at. You're the one that ordered the food. You're the one that you're the one that has the option to tip. And you can, they even give you the option of how much you can tip. And then you can even go above that. So if you're not willing to tip, then guess what? Don't order from them. Don't go out. You know what I'm saying? That's my problem, And then it says, oh, yeah. It says, America, stop expecting the consumer to voluntarily subsidize your ability to underpay your workers. Yeah. And so this is something that, we're constantly being told that, people have to work based on service. And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, you're leaving it to them to not pay at all, even if the service is good. Which is slavery. Like, what? I'll put it I may sound harsh. But if you're going to say that there's times where I just don't want to tip because I just don't have it, well, then you're basically trying to force somebody to do labor for free, which is slavery. Are you down with slavery? My thing is, if you're not down for slavery, then you're also not down for forcing people to do work for free. And if you're not forcing people to do work for free or for below a living wage, then I suggest you make contingency plans to get food for yourself. Because if you can afford to get Uber Eats, DoorDash, places like that, then you can afford to go to the grocery store and get that stuff. But at the same time, there are some people who can't do that. which is a lot of people who are disabled. And for them, I say, if you can afford the tip, then go ahead and do it. But if you can't afford the tip, then try to order groceries so that you won't have to get them over and over and over. You know what I mean? Try to do that. But that's the problem. It's, you got a lot of people who feel like, well, I don't need to order them a tip. And then people get mad when some of these drivers, they see that the person doesn't tip, so they just leave the food at the restaurant. They don't even take the order. And so people are like, "Where's my food? Where's my food?" You didn't tip. So, you know what I mean? Because the thing is that I can understand if these companies actually paid a living wage for drivers to actually deliver, but they don't. So these drivers are literally driving for damn near free, and then you don't tip them. So then what? What are they supposed to do? I just don't see that as fair. And as a socialist, as somebody that has solidarity with workers, I'm like, look, if I were to go to a restaurant, I better have tip money. I better. Unless I'm in a circumstance where I don't have anything to eat and I'm desperate, then okay, fine. But other than that, no. And if you need to learn how to cook, you're on YouTube right now, aren't you? Go ahead. People will teach you how to cook on YouTube. Soul food too. Good food. But the thing is, you cannot sit here and keep blaming others because this guy is literally working. And please do not come at me with that, oh, well, they just need to get a real job. They're working. They're working. What are they supposed to do? And then on top of that, you got a lot of these companies that will go, oh, well, there's a bunch of companies that are hiring right now. But a lot of these companies are doing what they like to call quiet hiring. Well, they'll have job postings just so that the government sees, oh, well, they have job postings. But in reality, they're not hiring at all. And in fact, what they're doing in these companies is that they're forcing their own workers to work even harder and to work double for the same amount. And then these workers are, even though they're getting the job done, these employers do not want to hire more people because now they know that these workers can actually do the same job with half the staff. So now that a lot of these jobs are running with skeleton crews, and then they're raking in all these profits. So then people like this guy, guess what? He can apply for a job, but they ain't going to hire him. And then try hiring somebody without an address. Try doing it. Try hiring somebody without an address. And then this guy's talking about how I think he's 4 months late on his car payment. So there's a chance where they can repo his car on top of that. This system is unsustainable. It is unsustainable. Let me show y'all something. Let me see something. Let's go to Q4. I'm trying to get this. Because these companies are raking in a lot of money, and people really need to see this. Hey, All right, so let me share my screen really quick. Sorry about that. Something just like not going very well. But anyways, this is out of Reuters. It says DoorDash put profits on the menu. So look here. It says this is out of New York. It says this is last year. DoorDash is taking the same route as technological peers. The $22 billion food delivery company unveiled its plans on Wednesday to slash its workforce by 6%, or about 1,250 people, in what has become a familiar refrain from Silicon Valley. Following boss Tai Zhu's blog post about the decision, its shares jumped 4%, recovering a morsel of the 75% decline in November 2021 peak. So it says top line growth, it says, which has been the main course at DoorDash and elsewhere, will be relegated to a side dish. It says the nearly $5 billion in revenue generated in the first 9 months of this year represents an 8-fold increase in the same period in 2019. $5 billion. And so people are sitting here, really like one of the biggest people who we should be going against is the CEOs and the shareholders for these companies. Because people like this gentleman should not be living this way while doing this work for him, while doing this work for them. And it really pisses me off, because it should not be this way. I'm going to show you guys this, and this is going to piss you guys off. It's really going to piss you off. But your outrage needs to be fuel for going up against people like this. So this says executive pay soared during the pandemic, widening the gulf between CEOs and employees. These were 5 execs who received the largest pay packages in 2020. So let me go down. Tony Zhu, CEO of DoorDash, number 2. DoorDash's Tony Zhu became the second highest paid executive in 2020 with compensation valued at $414 million. 2020 was a breakout year for DoorDash as the pandemic forced people to stay home and food delivery orders ballooned. DoorDash went public in a highly anticipated IPO in December. $414 million in compensation. And people are living homeless in their cars trying to deliver for companies like this, for Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, Grubhub. And you got this guy raking in $414 million. This is unsustainable. So, my heart goes out to that gentleman for what he's going through. One thing I will say is for people, especially who are hungry and homeless, if you can donate to mutual aid, like for instance, I want you guys to look up Food Not Bombs, okay? Food Not Bombs is a mutual aid organization, and they do great work, especially for people who are homeless. Now, there are some cities that will go, oh, you guys can't be giving food to homeless people, blah, blah, blah. And they will either get a ticket or they will get, arrested. But it is worth it because you're literally saving lives, right? I'm gonna share my screen really quick. So here's Food Not Bombs. It's foodnotbombs.net. And the quote here says, a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. That's from Martin Luther King Jr. And so Food Not Bombs does great work all over the world. If you guys can see, there's their locations, right? So they have different chapters if you would like to join. There is, you can volunteer. So this is Food Not Bombs, different locations. So I highly recommend anybody, if they want to try to help people, especially those who are hungry, Food Not Bombs, if you can, because people are starving out there. And it is not right that you have people who are literally homeless that are literally working. He's working and he still can't make enough. And he's literally in tears. So if you guys can donate to them, donate to them. Help them out. Even if you can't physically do anything to help them. So yeah. So that was the story that I wanted to touch on. And from what I'm hearing is that gentleman also, I think they have a link tree, I was told, but sometimes people may use opportunities like that to, some people may use opportunities like that to, scam other people. So I have to be careful. But that video got 20 million. That video got 3.6 million views. 3.6 million. Because people are suffering. All right. So,
hey man, what's up?
Hey Keaton, good to see you, man.
Great to see you as always, my friend. Can you hear me all right? I don't have any of my equipment set up. This was just an impromptu thing.
No, you're good. Yeah, I can see, I can hear you, and I can see you quite fine.
Cool, excellent. Yeah, no, I just figured I volunteered to talk to you because I drive for these apps myself, and what a horrible thing to see. That was the first I learned of it, was just watching your show right now, and so I do want to reach out to that guy. I know he has a link tree. Just to give some advice, you know what I mean? Because the thing about these apps is, as you said, it's absolutely brutal. They don't not pay a living wage. They don't pay anything. You can sit logged on to Uber for 3 hours, and if you don't get an order that's worth taking and you don't take any orders, you don't make anything. They don't guarantee you anything. There's zero guarantee of any wage. Now, the key is when you drive the apps, the thing about being an independent contractor that sucks is, there's no guaranteed wage. The thing that can be nice about it is you get to pick which orders you take before you take them. So when you get an order come in on your screen, it'll tell you how many miles you're driving, where the restaurant is, where the drop-off is, and what your guaranteed pay is for that order. It doesn't tell you the tip, but it tells you the guaranteed pay. So each order comes with, say, a $2, $3, $4, $5 base fare, depending on how long you're driving, which is, it's low. Like if it's a 4 or 5 mile delivery job, it'll probably only have a $2 or $3 base pay. And then it will say what the total amount is. So if you are discerning and disciplined about which orders you take, you can do fairly well, but you have to reject all the lousy orders. That's how it works. So like it'll say, okay, here's a delivery from Applebee's to this house. You're going to be driving 6 miles and your guaranteed pay is $4.50. Crap. Turn it down. And the nice thing about the independent contractor is you're allowed to turn down any job that doesn't pay well enough. Now, the thing is, if you find yourself in a desperate situation, you might just take lousy orders, which is going to get you in that situation where you're not making anywhere near a living wage. My philosophy is, let the 17-year-old PMC kid who's driving his parents' car, let him take the lousy orders. Like, if you're depending on this for a living, you got to only take those good orders. And so there is a way to make money on these apps, but they absolutely do exploit people who either can't do the mental math in their head as quick to figure out what's worth taking and what's not, or people who just feel like they have to take every order or else they'll get in trouble. Like, these apps exploit the fact that people are ignorant of the rules. And by ignorant, I don't mean ignorant through any fault of their own. I mean, you work a job, you expect to have to stay in good standing with the boss, right? Uber, DoorDash, Grubhub, there are no bosses. You're working for Skynet, the Terminator movies. You're working for robots. Like, there is no boss. There's no human element to this whatsoever, which is freeing in a way, but it's also intimidating in a way because there are not worker protections in place. There's no HR department to go to if you get screwed. I've been screwed out of money, screwed out of jobs where you'll drive 5 miles to go pick up an order and the customer will cancel the order and you'll get paid $1 as a consolation for having driven those 5 miles, which doesn't even cover your gas. So it's a brutal way to make a living in the sense that you really are on your own, and all the company cares about is getting every order filled. So they're never going to tell you only take the orders that are good, only take the good ones. But that's what I wish I could get through to guys like that when I see on the screen. I emailed them just now. I said, I'd be happy to talk to you on the phone about, how to make more money at this, because there are things that these companies will never tell you. They will withhold that information on purpose. For example, Uber has this thing called an acceptance rating where they incentivize a high acceptance rating, meaning you accept X amount of trips as a percentage of requests that come in. If you accept 70% of rides, you get gold status, you get platinum status, you get this, which is what, like a 20 cents off a gallon of gas. Like, the status rewards are nothing. The only status that makes a difference is how much money you're making per hour. What is your wage? But they don't speak in those terms. They come up with all these bullshit ways to trick the drivers into making Uber money, making that CEO money. I mean, what a sickening figure. $414 million.
Yeah.
I mean, just incredible.
And my one of my biggest things is that, and I was talking about this with the Uber and Lyft drivers strike here in Orlando, is that some of them also can get locked out of the app from time to time if they're not doing what Uber wants them to do as far as the acceptance rate, right? And so because of that, then what ends up happening is, it's like, well, we can't make any money. It's like, even though we were making just a little, now we can't make anything at all.
That should not be allowed. That should not be allowed. My acceptance rating on Uber Eats is like 10%. I only take 10% of the orders because most of them are garbage. I only take the good ones. On DoorDash, my acceptance rating is like 12%. As an independent contractor, they cannot coerce you into taking a job you don't want. That's not allowed. So if that's happening there, then they have to blow the whistle on that. They have to.
Yeah, and so they were talking about this, and in fact, I talked about this last week, and so this is why they were on strike in the Orlando International Airport last week. And I was upset because I couldn't get down there because it was happening on one of my dialysis days. I had to come home, I had to sleep, and so I wasn't able to get down there. But my problem is that these companies are becoming more exploitative as time goes on. And as we see, I'm just looking at, the United States. I'm like, man, we need to do a French style. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like people are scared because if they try to rise up, then of course, you have to deal with what's going on as far as basically we live in a police state. So this is why I'm like, look, if we're going to rise up, we have to rise up in a unique way that they wouldn't expect. And this is why, talking to your neighbors and being able to converse with them and let them know, like, look, I see you, I feel you, and we need to come together because this is an unsustainable system. And in educating people on why it's unsustainable, I think is also very important.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. And it's especially pressing and urgent when it comes to rideshare work and app work because, like I
Mhm.
said earlier, we don't work for a boss. We work for a computer. We work for an algorithm.
Yeah.
They view us the same way we view them. We are just numbers to them. They do not acknowledge us as human beings and will never acknowledge each individual as a human being. The only way they will respond to human need and human pressure is through collectivized human effort, right? Because look, you work at a pizzeria, maybe that pizzeria employs 10 people. Now that pizzeria
Mhm.
may pay you like shit, and it probably does.
Mhm.
But you're one of
Yeah.
10 people that has direct contact with the boss, so they at least see you as a human being. They might treat you like shit anyway. In most cases, they probably do. But you are flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Us Uber drivers,
Mhm.
man, DoorDash drivers, Grubhub drivers, I drive for all of them. We are nothing. We are nothing but a number to
Yeah.
these people, and they're not people. They're robots. We work for robots, and so the only way to catch their eye is to do it the way the Orlando drivers are doing it. They have to make their voices heard collectively in an organized way, and if that's true, that they're being penalized for a low acceptance rate, that is a complete violation of terms. I mean, that
Yeah.
is not the way it's supposed to happen. The whole point of being an independent contractor is you
Mhm.
run your business through Uber, right? So if you are a rideshare driver, the way Uber sets this up, the way they pitch it to you is you don't work for Uber. You are running a rideshare business. You're running basically a taxi business using the Uber platform to get rides, and you pay Uber their
Mhm.
commission rate that they set. We don't. Um, in exchange for them hooking us up with gigs. That's the way it's supposed to work. So once they are able to tell you you must take X percentage of offers we give you, or else you lose access to the platform, that's a violation. That should not stand. That cannot stand. And so they have to make that known if that's what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you what I showed everybody last week. This is out of Orlando Weekly. It says nearly 100 rideshare drivers, mostly people of color, rallied at Airport Lakes Park as part of a planned work stoppage to formally announce their demands for Uber and Lyft. The two most popular rideshare companies, drivers say, hold on to a bulk of what they charge passengers, forcing drivers to work multiple jobs or to work long hours to make ends meet for themselves and their families. And so this is actually a pretty long article. Um, and it says the guild, let me see, according to the organization's website, it says they fight for the right to collectively bargain in addition to securing living wage for Uber and Lyft drivers, fighting unfair deactivation in which a driver is barred from picking up new rides on the rideshare app. And so this is some of the stuff that's going on with these companies, and they are basically forcing them to work under duress.
Right.
And whenever I speak to someone about because a lot of times you'll have people that go, well, they have the option whether they want to or not to do said thing when it comes to work. And I'm like, no, not if they're under duress. And a
Right.
lot of people realize that what duress actually means, and duress means threats, violence, constraints, or other actions brought to bear on someone to do something against their will or better judgment. So this is synonymous with coercion, compulsion, force, pressure, and intimidation. So people are literally working under duress in order to survive, and that is absolutely morally wrong. And you have these companies and these corporations that are forcing people to continuously work under duress just to make these people, these billionaires, money. For instance, $414 million in
Yeah.
compensation.
It's just absolutely sick, man. It's absolutely sick. Because I know, like I said, I do it. I drive for DoorDash, and sometimes I could do pretty well. But even when I do pretty well, man, it's such a hustle just to scratch out the bare minimum of what you can live on. And these guys, man, they come up with an algorithm that works. Think about it, man. These are transportation companies. They don't call themselves that. They call themselves, logistics companies. They're transportation companies. They
Yeah.
have not bought a gallon of gas ever. Ever.
Mhm.
A CEO of Uber's never bought a gallon of gas for any of his drivers. And yet
Mhm.
look at the profits that they sit on
Yeah.
for basically creating a network, creating an app, creating a formula, and just replicating that formula, in thousands of places all around the world. That's all they do. And 414 million, while these drivers can barely scrape by, if that. All right, man, I have to run because my kids need things, as you can probably hear one of them. I got you, buddy. Don't worry. I'm on my way. All right, JB, great to see you as always. Thank you, man.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for having. Thanks for coming on. All right.
You got it.
Bye.